to the channel, everybody. For those of you that are new, which you could probably tell by everything else, we're doing a 5-speed swap in a Galant. We're pretty close to getting it finished. Actually, as you all know, it's actually already finished, but when you guys see this, we will be starting the 5-speed install. So we'll go ahead and install everything that is related to a clutch, all the lines, the hardware, the shifter assembly, and we'll pretty much get it back together. We apologize it's been taking us. We're a little slow to this, we're a little new at it, and we kind of also have lives outside of cars. Stay tuned and hope you guys enjoy it. Hey guys, so it's the next day. It's actually Sunday now, and I don't know if that'll even make sense because we're so bad at vlogging that I don't even know if this will even work in like a chronological order of days. But anyway, and I promise I've like changed to just have different English racing shirts, which you should check them out because they're like the gods of all things Mitsubishi and GTR. Anyway, Davis and I are over on the Galant now. We're in the speed shed, trying to get some work done. Last night we got actually a decent way through, and believe it or not, we actually got most of like the stuff that make the 5-speed setup work. So you can now see Davis down there drilling a hole for the master cylinder, as well as the center console's going back in. We're making some progress there. But essentially what you have to do is, in order to get the master cylinder for the clutch line in, you actually have to make the holes where it mounts to the firewall. So you can see down there where Davis is slowly but surely getting through the firewall with a hole saw, and where the brake booster, will go once it's there. So that's kind of what we've been doing lately. We're waiting on the throwout bearing to get here. Hopefully it's not too loud. But we've been waiting on the throwout bearing to get here, and it kind of takes some time. It's also really hot in Seattle, like a whole whopping like 80 degrees, so we're all sweating a lot more than we should. So in the meantime, while the throwout bearing is getting here, we're just kind of trying to make leeway in other areas. So still like 1,000 degrees. So basically Davis just filled out, finished drilling out that hole in the firewall. Basically what we had to do is we had to drill these two here and then drill this. It's actually already marked on the inside of the firewall. So the big one you have to use a hole saw for, I believe it's like 1.5 inches, and then the two studs. So Davis can get a little bit of insight on that hole that we just drilled out. Professional cameraman. So it does take a little while. It is kind of in a really inconvenient spot. It does help that the brake booster is already out. So basically what you end up doing is just throwing it in. The line is still connected, only because when I removed it out of the 3rd generation Eclipse, I kind of wanted it all together. So hopefully the line is still pretty much usable the way it is. We'll see. I don't know if this is actually going to fit right away. If it does, it's kind of a miracle, because I'm guessing we probably have to drill a little bit more to make the holes line up pretty much perfect. And I think we got to open up the holes a little bit for the studs, but I'll do that real quick and then we'll video us kind of installing it. So, 1 second. Alright guys, so we took a little break today, had a couple things going on. Disregard the length of the line. I had a hard time getting the clutch line off the master cylinder, so it all kind of came out together. We'll probably have to either get a stainless line or change this up as we go, because my guess is that the bend that the 3G Eclipse uses is probably substantially different than the frame and kind of the engine bay of the Galant. But you can see down here, you can see down here, these are the holes that we've been cutting on. Basically we used a whole 1.5 inch hole saw here, and there's 2 studs that go through these 2 holes that we had to drill out. We'll show actually a picture. Alright guys, so you can kind of see the awful job that we did. I'm sorry the camera might be a little shaky. We had a hard time with the hole saw we had. See, there's 2 holes for the stud, and then you can also see there's a bigger hole where the hole saw went through, and that's just for the master cylinder for the clutch line and the clutch pedal to go through there. But we'll go and move over to the engine bay. Okay guys, so now back in the engine bay. Here's the 2 holes that we were talking about for the stud, hole for the hole saw. Disregard the length of the line for the clutch. Had a hard time getting it. Actually, this nut or I should say this fitting off the master cylinder loose, so I just took it out all as one. My guess is that we'll end up having to cut that out and go to a stainless line for the Galant, because the shape of the engine bay and kind of the route for the line that the 3G Eclipse uses is likely different. I don't really know because I've never done this. But basically all this does is to try and avoid grabbing the brake lines, fits underneath, and you end up just sticking this right through. And then from the inside of the car, you'll end up basically just attaching the nuts on the studs, but it should fit right in there. I haven't really tested it a whole lot lately. So yeah, so that's how it'll fit. That's for the most part easy. I did it without the brake master cylinder, or the brake booster in, and the brake master cylinder. I don't think it's a requirement to remove it. Though I did end up cleaning it up just to make it look a little bit nicer, so that way you could tell we've done the work. But I think from here on out, I'm learning a little bit more in that you really don't need to remove the brake booster. We just did in this case. You do, however, need to remove the brake pedal out of the Eclipse, or need the brake pedal, or you can actually cut the factory one. The factory Galant pedal is wide and actually interferes with the clutch pedal if you try to install it. So anyway, we'll go ahead and start tightening this up, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, now that we have the clutch master cylinder in, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the brake booster. Again, this was not a requirement to remove, but it just kind of makes sense to do this before we go back into the car to tie everything down. It's pretty simple. There's 4 bolts here, or 4 studs. They can just go through the firewall here, and there's just nuts that attach, and this basically just goes right to the brake pedal. So we'll go ahead and throw that in, and then we'll hop back in the car. Hopefully we can throw it in, I guess. I think the clutch pedal might be giving us some issues, but we'll figure it out. Or clutch master cylinder. Maybe someday. I guess it doesn't need a brake pedal, right? I guess not. Ah! Success! And then I should actually add, one of the things we're going to have to do is the clutch fluid reservoir, like on the 3G, actually sat up here and bolted in. This, for the clutch master cylinder, will attach to that. But I haven't quite figured out how that's going to work, or like how we're going to get it to bolt in. But I'll look it up online and see what other people have done in the past. But for now, this is pretty much what leaves us here. The brake master cylinder will go right here with the 2 studs, and then for the most part, I guess we did a lot more work than we needed to with the brake system, but it'll be for the most part ready to go and to install the pedals. So we'll head into the car. Sorry guys if I'm like really loud, but here's the brake booster bolts. The brake pedal will attach to this here also. There's a brace, I believe, that goes between here and there I need to install, and then here's your clutch master cylinder, and we need to find another nut for that, but I'm already started it. And I'm not really sure how the brake switch, I think that's what that used to go to, but we'll figure it out once we get everything back installed and looking normal. So yeah, I'll go ahead and start now. It'll probably be a little difficult to record this because I'll be needing my hands, but I'll let you guys know how it goes. Thanks.
Normal angle.
Okay, so hey guys, so actually what's really cool is that when Mitsubishi designed these, the US never had it, but these are actually the holes for the clutch pedal. And so if you actually pull these little mats back, there's actually threaded holes where the clutch pedal will actually attach to, and then you mount to the other part of the bracket for the clutch pedal using the master cylinder nuts. So I'll go ahead and start that. This might be kind of painful because there's not a lot of room to work with down here. But yeah, we'll take it easy and figure it out. So it's cool. You take that.
And cut.
All right, guys. So the clutch pedal assembly is in. Both bolts here. We've got one nut down there, one nut on top. So in order to kind of complete the clutch setup, there is a pin that goes through right here with a locking another pin, and it actually looks just like this. So it might be hard to see, but basically this will feed through that side, and the like the cotter looking pin will stop it. So I'll go ahead and install that now. All right, guys, we got the brake pedal assembly in. I do need to get another nut on the top bolt up there, or stud, but kind of the same thing. The brake pedal has a pin that goes through right here, and then another pin that kind of locks it in place, just like the clutch pedal does. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, and then we will have a brake pedal. And I think for the most part, inside the car, we will be ready to go. And I'm hoping that that's the same setup as far as like the brake switch for the brake pedal.
How's the lighting? Go.
Alright guys, so brake pedal is in. There are the 4 nuts and the studs. There is a bracket that goes from basically behind here, grabs those 2, and so there's 5 bolts total. You do have your brake light switch here, as well as the little pin with the other little pin right there, and so you can see now that we have a brake pedal that's moving, and we do have a clutch pedal. So we're pretty much finished underneath the car, and we are going to make our way back into the engine bay to install the brake master cylinder on the front of the brake booster. Okay guys, so you can now see that we do have a master cylinder for the clutch, and then we have our brake booster back installed. There is a vacuum line that does have a one-way check valve in it that you do have to put back on. We'll probably wait for a second. And then we do have right here our brake master cylinder. So basically what happens is there is a little rod in here that just feeds right into the end of the master cylinder. We'll go ahead and install that. There are 2 brake lines that come off of this that we will have to re-thread back on. So we do need to be careful that we're not destroying those lines. And that little line does not want to stay put. So basically, this will feed back on. I did save pretty much all the nuts and bolts that came off of all of these. So these are the original ones. So we'll go ahead and install that. There is, like, for your low brake fluid light, or I shouldn't say low brake fluid, but your it can detect low brake fluid or whatever the case is. And so this is the sensor for the float right here that is actually trapped under the clutch line now. So that will go back there. This line right here actually feeds right back into this part of the master cylinder, and then this line will feed there. So we'll get going on that now.
Far behind you.